Hey, good morning. My name is Rob, and if you are an old guy skater, chances are that we probably have pretty similar backgrounds. I skated when I was younger, and then I took an extended break. It was like 26 years off. During that 26 years off, I spent a pretty good amount of time reminiscing back to my good old skate days. Good times spent with my buddies Chris and Tommy, cruising around the neighborhood, trying to build little ramps, just terrorizing our neighbors all together. It was awesome. Now, along with all of the great nostalgia, I noticed that I had a few regrets. There were things that I wished that I had done while I was still skating. So here are the 5 main skate regrets that have been weighing me down for decades. Number 1, I never dropped in on a vert ramp. Number 2, I never got to skate a pool. Number 3, I always wanted to skate a full pipe. Number 4, I never got to skate the pickerel pool, which was a local spot near my house growing up. And number 5, the one that I want to talk about today, is I never got to skate a ditch. Drainage ditches are really common in a lot of places, but not really here on the Jersey Shore where I grew up. We just don't really have them around here. Now, for the most part, these were really unresolvable regrets because I hadn't skated in over a quarter century. So there was no way that I was going to climb to the top of a vert ramp and drop in. Well, the weird thing is that I started skating again as an adult. I've been back at it now for 3 years, and at some point along the line, it dawned on me that, hey, I could probably go back and do some of these things that I always wanted to do. So today, I'm going to resolve that regret. I'm going to find a ditch. I'm going to go skate it. Now, there is one ditch in particular that I really want to skate. It's the ditch that introduced me to the idea of ditch skating to begin with. All right, for this memory, I'm going to bring you back to 1986. I was visiting my cousin Michael at his house. He also lived in New Jersey, but he was farther north in a more rural region. Rural. He lived in a farmy region of New Jersey, and we were riding bikes around his neighborhood one day when he brought me to a spot that he called the Pipeline. I had never seen anything like it before. Now, I knew what a half pipe was, and to me, this looked like a super long, amazing half pipe. There were a couple guys in there skating, and Michael and I didn't skate at the time, but we had bikes, so we rode our bikes in it for a little bit, which was pretty fun. But it wasn't until a few years later when I started skating that the Pipeline re-entered my sphere of awareness, and I realized that this was a spot that I would like to try skating. But unfortunately, we just never went back there, so I never had a chance to skate it. So I figured as long as I'm finding a ditch to skate, I might as well go skate the Pipeline. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Now, the only problem is that I don't know where the Pipeline was. And sure, I could probably just text my cousin Michael and ask him where it was, but I thought that it would be a little bit more fun to try and find it myself. After all, with Google Maps and Street View and Satellite View, there are plenty of tools at our disposal now to find cool skate spots. So, all right, let's see if we can find the Pipeline. All right, here is my strategy. If I can find Michael's house, then I should be able to find the Pipeline. Because we were 8 years old, riding bikes, how far could we possibly have gone? I don't remember Michael's address. I don't even remember the street that he lived on. But I do remember the name of one of the streets in Michael's neighborhood because it had a really unusual name. Now, I'm probably going to bleep that out because it's not my skate spot. I shouldn't go advertising skate spots on the internet. I mean, it's so verby. Just know that it's a really weird street name. I've remembered it for the past 30-something years, so, oh my God. 40-something years? Oh. So anyway, I went to Google Maps and I looked up and it came right up. So that put me right there in Michael's neighborhood. Now, another thing that I remember is that behind Michael's house, there was a great big pond. So I just zoomed out, I looked on satellite view, and sure enough, there was a pond right there. From there, I had a pretty good idea of where Michael's house was in relation to the pond. Once I found the house that I thought was his, I went to Street View and I looked at the front of the house. It was the house that I remember going to as a kid. In fact, that house hasn't changed one bit since we were kids, which is pretty cool. It's like a little time capsule. From there, I figured it would be pretty easy to find the pipeline because Michael had bike trails that ran all through his neighborhood. So I figured if I looked at satellite view, I could just trace these bike trails out and then look for concrete drainage. I ended up finding 3 or 4 spots that looked like they might be the pipeline. Okay, so I knew that I was going to have to go deep into my memory banks to get more details. So we were only there for a half an hour in 1986, so I knew that I was going to have to dig deep. Okay, so here is what I remember. We were riding along the road, either on the sidewalk or on the bike path. I don't remember which, but it doesn't matter. The road curved gradually to the left. Off to the right, there was a big field, and the ditch ran out from the road, perpendicular to the road, into the field for a few hundred feet. The concrete was kind of a brownish tint. It was your standard trapezoidal-shaped drainage ditch. And after about 100 feet, it curved to the left and ran down a hill. The ditch ended where it met up with another road. That road was kind of a busier road, so I'm going to guess that was probably on the outskirts of the neighborhood. I also remember at the end there was a drainage pipe that wasn't big enough to climb into, but it was big enough to gobble up any runaway skateboards, so a little hazard. And the final detail that I remember very distinctly was the graffiti, the graffiti on the ditch that said, "Twisted Sister." Oh yeah. That was the first time that I ever heard of Twisted Sister, and I remember reading it thinking, what does that mean? Anyway, with those thoughts fresh in my mind, I went back to Google Maps and I looked at those spots, and I saw one spot that looked like it might fit the bill. So I went to Street View and I picked a few spots to try and get a glimpse through the trees. Finally, I found one spot where I could see the ditch. I found it. That was it. There's only one thing left to do at that point. I hopped in the car and headed on out to the pipeline. When I got to the pipeline, the first thing that I saw was this. Twisted Sister. Hey, hats off to that rogue metalhead who felt the need to deface public property in honor of his favorite heavy metal band. And he introduced me to Twisted Sister as a kid, and as an adult, he stoked me out and gave me killer nostalgia. All right, who cares? Let's go skate. Hey, I finally got to skate that thing. All right, so how about a little recap? I didn't know how I was going to skate that thing. I didn't know if I would skate it more like a mini ramp, just back and forth, or if I would skate it like a big, long snake run. I ended up skating it more like a snake run. So I started at the top and just worked my way down. That was pretty fun for me. Now, about halfway down, somebody waxed the hell out of the edge of the ditch. And that gave me the additional challenge. If I drew just the right line, then I could try and get a sweet grind on the edge of the ditch on my way down. And anytime that I actually got that grind, it was most satisfying. I think the hardest part about skating this ditch is the fact that the transitions are not completely uniform everywhere. There was one spot where the transition went up and then went convex for a minute. It was like a funky blump. That was pretty hard to skate over. But there were some other spots too where there were anomalies like that you could actually use to your advantage. For instance, there was one kink where if I pumped through it, I could actually generate a pretty good amount of speed on the way out. Now, this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that the transitions are not perfect, because this obviously was never created with skateboarding in mind. I think part of the charm of skating spots in the wild is that you need to figure them out and see if you can adapt to that environment. So for me, adapting was a matter of aiming for the kinks and avoiding the blumps. Overall, I think if you had this in your neighborhood in 1986, keeping in mind that there were no skate parks back then, you hit the jackpot, because I would argue that this was pretty comparable to even a modern day skate park. And now the reason that I say that is because I can think of two modern day skate parks, Brigantine Skate Park in New Jersey and Lancaster County Skate Park in Pennsylvania. Both of those parks are constructed in almost the same way. The concrete is the same, the transitions are the same, even right down to the kinks and the blumps. When you skate these spots, you kind of have to figure them out, just like I did at the Pipeline. I don't think they're anybody's favorite skate parks, but they're still kind of fun because you have to figure them out and you kind of have to work for it. All right. Hey, so I would call that mission accomplished for the Pipeline. But I'm a little reluctant to say mission accomplished for ditch skating because it's like potato chips. You can't just eat one. So I thought I would do some recon, see if I can find some other ditches, and go skate as many as I can.
All right, hey, I did it. I am so glad that I took the time to seek out some other ditches because they were all different. They all required a different approach. They had different kinks and blumps to figure out, and I had a pretty good time just trying to figure them out. I think the thing that I liked best about the ditch skating experience is that it satisfies that skate instinct to search out skate spots. I think that's a holdover from my childhood because when we were kids, we always had our eyes peeled looking for spots around the neighborhood to skate. And I think once you're a skater, that never really leaves you because even in the years when I wasn't skating, I would often notice spots around town and think that they looked like they would be pretty fun to skate. So I think if I wanted to take this to the next level, I would probably have to go out west, out to Vegas, New Mexico, or one of those other places where they have those super long ditches that wind their way through the desert. That would be cool. Maybe someday. But for now, I would say mission accomplished. I think I could check this one off my list. All right, that's 1 down, 4 more to go. Oh, actually, that's not true. That's 2 down, 3 to go. Because I skated the pickerel pool not too long ago. I made a video about that, so feel free to check that out. Hey, thank you for joining me on this journey to skate a ditch. If you have any cool ditch stories, or if you know of any ditches that I should try out, leave it down in the comments. I would love to hear from you. My name is Rob, signing off. Thanks for watching.